right, let's jump right into this deep dive. We're tackling chapter 1 this time, the evolutionary journey.
Yeah, it's quite a story, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, talk about setting the stage from the very beginnings of life on Earth.
Absolutely.
All the way to us Homo sapiens.
It is. It's the whole shebang, isn't it?
Billions of years, and this chapter kind of lays it all out.
Chapter 1 does a great job of hitting those big key moments, I think, like the formation of Earth itself.
Right.
It goes from like single-celled organisms to complex life, and then, of course, the big finale, humans.
Well, and one of the things that struck me reading the chapter and going over your notes was just how different early Earth must have been.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you think about it, no oxygen, volcanoes erupting everywhere, a toxic atmosphere. I mean, it just sounds inhospitable.
Inhospitable is a good word. It really kind of stretches the imagination of like what habitable even means, right?
Yeah.
Like how could anything survive?
Right.
But here's the thing. Even though it was like this crazy wild place, the basic ingredients for life, they were all there.
They were there.
It's wild. Water, those organic molecules, energy sources, it's all there. Just kind of like swirling around in this primeval soup.
And that's where all the cool theories come in about how life actually got started.
Right.
I mean, a biogenesis where life just kind of pops up out of non-living matter.
Yeah.
It's kind of magical almost.
It's like poof, life.
But then you've got things like the Miller-Urey experiment, which I know we've talked about before.
Yes, a classic.
Where they were able to recreate those early Earth conditions and bam, organic molecule.
They did. It was groundbreaking, wasn't it? I mean, it shows that under the right circumstances, life really could just assemble itself, like spontaneously.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly how it happened here on Earth.
Right.
But, I mean, it definitely shows it's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It opens up the possibilities.
Wide open.
And then you have panspermia.
Ooh, yes.
The idea that life, or at least, the pieces of it, hitched a ride on a meteorite or a comet.
It came from outer space.
From outer space. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah.
That we could be connected to events, in the vast universe.
Yeah.
Billions of years ago.
It adds a whole other layer to our origin story.
For sure. And then another one that I thought was fascinating is the deep sea vent hypothesis.
Oh, yeah.
Where you've got these, super hot, mineral-rich environments.
It's like little underwater volcanoes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And life could have started there.
Thriving in these extreme conditions shows that life is pretty darn resilient.
And those deep sea vents, I mean, they would have been like little oases.
Yeah, little pockets of life.
In this kind of crazy world. But what gets me? It took billions of years for those early organisms, the single-celled guys, to evolve into all the complex life that we see today.
Deep time, right.
Billions of years. That's a long time.
It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? The vastness of time and, just how intricate those evolutionary processes are. But they were there, those single-celled organisms, laying the groundwork for everything that came after, including, of course,
us.
The primates.
I love this part. This is where I really start to geek out. Lemurs, monkeys, apes.
Whole gangs here.
It's like our family reunion.
Yeah.
But what makes primates so special? What sets us apart?
Well, primates have got a few tricks up their sleeves, that's for sure. We've developed some pretty unique characteristics that let us thrive, especially in those treetop environments. Take grasping hands and feet, for instance.
Oh, yeah. Opposable thumbs. Those are important.
Absolutely essential. They give us incredible dexterity, to manipulate things, move through the trees. I mean, think about all the things you do with your thumbs.
It's true. I never really thought about it before.
It's a game changer. Gripping, writing, using tools. It's all thanks to those opposable thumbs. It's a real defining characteristic of primates and a big part of our evolutionary success story.
And it's not just about the hands, right?
Right. There's also binocular vision, which means our eyes face forward, gives us depth perception, which is, pretty handy when you're swinging through the trees or trying to snag a juicy fruit.
Makes sense, yeah. But for me, the biggest turning point, and I think what really set us on the path to becoming human, is bipedalism.
Walking upright. Oh, absolutely. That was monumental.
Yeah.
Chapter 1 really dives into how bipedalism emerged within this group called hominins.
That's hominids.
Which basically includes all modern and extinct human species. And when we started walking on two legs, well, it freed up our hands for all sorts of things. Carrying stuff, using tools.
Right.
It just opened up a world of possibilities.
It's like that one change led to this whole cascade of adaptations,
The
right?
domino effect.
Yeah, that eventually led to us. It makes you appreciate those early hominins even more.
Oh, for sure. Like Australopithecus,
Yeah.
Lucy. Exactly. They give us this crucial window into those early stages of bipedalism. You can see they were still comfortable in the trees, but they were also walking around on two legs.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It really is. And then you've got Homo habilis.
Ah, yes, handyman.
The tool makers.
The original tool makers. It's incredible to think that something as simple as picking up a rock and shaping it could have had such a huge impact on our evolution.
It's mind-blowing.
A true cognitive leap. Tools meant they could access new food sources, build shelters, and just, start to shape their environment. It's something no other animal could do.
Like they were taking charge.
Exactly. And then comes Homo erectus.
Ooh, now these guys were adventurers.
Oh, totally. They were the first to really venture out of Africa, spreading across Asia and Europe, incredibly adaptable.
And that's probably thanks in part to their mastery of fire, right?
Ah, fire. A total game changer.
It's huge.
Think about what it meant for them. Warmth, protection, cooking. It's hard to overstate how important fire was to human evolution.
Right. It allowed them to survive in colder places.
Absolutely.
Gather around and socialize.
That sense of community.
I mean, it even changed the way they ate. It's a big deal. And then, of course, you have the Neanderthals.
Our mysterious cousins.
I've always been so intrigued by them.
They're fascinating, aren't they? They represent a whole separate lineage of humans that evolved alongside our own. Adapted for the cold, complex social structures.
Yeah, they even seem to have, rituals.
Yeah, there's evidence of symbolic behavior like burying their dead. It suggests a much higher level of cognitive complexity than we used to give them credit for.
It's like we're just starting to understand them.
It's amazing how much our understanding has changed, even in recent years. But for whatever reason, around 40,000 years ago, they vanished from the fossil record. And Homo sapiens, well, we become the sole survivors, and here we are.
It's an incredible story of survival and adaptation.
It really is. And you know what? As we dig deeper into Chapter 1, we're going to really get into those specific adaptations that allowed Homo sapiens to not only survive, but to thrive and eventually to completely reshape the world.
It's amazing, right? All these early humans, these hominins figuring things out.
It really is.
But it makes me wonder, what was it about Homo sapiens? What gave us that extra edge?
Oh, yeah. That's the million-dollar question.
Because the Neanderthals, they were tough. They were adapted to their environment.
They were.
But they're not here anymore.
Right.
So what was our secret weapon?
Well, Chapter 1 really breaks it down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It highlights a fascinating combo of physical, cognitive, and social adaptations that set Homo sapiens apart. It wasn't just one thing,
Right.
It was a whole package deal.
Okay. So let's unpack that a little bit. What were some of those key physical adaptations?
Well, we've talked about bipedalism, but it's worth repeating, I think. It was such a huge shift. I mean, not only did it free up our hands, but it changed our whole perspective, literally.
Oh, so?
We could see farther.
Oh, okay.
Scan the horizon, spot predators, all that good stuff.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's like we were literally standing taller.
Exactly. And speaking of hands, those opposable thumbs we talked about, don't underestimate them.
No, they're game changers.
They are essential. The precision grip that they allow is the foundation for so much of what we do as humans. I mean, from crafting those early tools to creating art, it all comes back to those thumbs.
It's true. In your notes, you mentioned an article about those spear points, remember?
Oh, yeah.
The ones that were tens of thousands of years old.
Unbelievable craftsmanship.
So well made. They were so finely crafted. It just showed, how skilled our ancestors were at manipulating materials.
Absolutely. And it all ties back to the opposable thumb, doesn't it? It allowed them to hunt better, outcompete other predators. Homo sapiens were going places.
They were.
Yeah. But of course it wasn't just hands and feet, There's more to the story.
Right. The brain. Can't forget about the brain.
Yes. The brain. The control center.
Pretty important to our success, I'd say.
It is. And Chapter 1 points out that, brain size did increase gradually over time. But there were some specific changes in Homo sapiens that made a big difference.
Like what?
Like the prefrontal cortex.
The prefrontal cortex.
It's that part of the brain that handles planning, decision-making, abstract thought, all the good stuff.
Okay. So we were getting better at, thinking ahead.
Exactly.
Strategizing.
Problem solving.
Yeah.
All of it.
That's so cool. So it's like our brains were basically turning into like these superpowered computers.
In a way, yeah. They were processing information faster, generating new ideas. It was a whole new level of cognitive ability.
It's amazing. And then on top of that, we developed language. I mean, that seems like a whole other level of adaptation.
It is. It's arguably the biggest leap in human evolution, wouldn't you say?
I would.
Think about it. The ability to share complex thoughts, ideas, information.
Mm-hmm.
It allows for collaboration, for innovation, for passing down knowledge through generations.
It's like language unlocked our potential.
It did.
Like we could suddenly tell stories, share experiences, build communities around these like shared beliefs.
And that's a crucial point. Those social bonds, they were critical. Chapter 1 makes it clear that Homo sapiens, we weren't just lone wolves.
Right.
We were pack animals.
Yeah.
We relied on each other, you know.
It makes sense, especially back then.
Oh, absolutely. Hunting, gathering, protection. You needed your tribe.
Strength in numbers.
Exactly. And those social adaptations, they weren't just about survival either.
Right.
They paved the way for culture, for art, for everything that makes us human, really. Think about those cave paintings. They're not just pictures of animals.
They're more than that.
They're expressions of creativity, of storytelling, of shared meaning.
Yeah, it's like they were trying to make sense of the world.
Exactly, just like we are today. And that drive, that need to understand, to explore, to connect, it's all part of our evolutionary heritage. But, you know, we're just scratching the surface here. Chapter 1 also goes into natural selection.
What?
You know, survival of the fittest. How those traits that were best suited to the environment were more likely to be passed down.
So how does that apply to us, Homo sapiens?
Well, think about all the adaptations we've been talking about. Bipedalism, opposable thumbs, larger brains, language, social skills.
Yeah.
Those things didn't just appear out of thin air.
Right.
They developed because they gave our ancestors an advantage.
So the ones who were better at, you know, walking upright or making tools or communicating,
Yeah.
they were more likely to survive.
And reproduce.
Right, and pass those traits on.
Exactly. And over time, those traits become more and more common.
And eventually you have us.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder that who we are today, it's not just because of our genes, it's because of the environment, the challenges our ancestors faced. It all plays a role.
It's pretty humbling when you think about it. But here's a question that keeps popping up for me.
Yeah.
If natural selection is all about survival, you know, the fittest, then how did we develop things like art, music, storytelling?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Those things don't seem, you know, directly related to survival the way that like opposable thumbs are.
That's a great point. And it gets at, I think, what really makes us unique as humans. Survival, yeah, it's a big part of the story, but it's not the whole story. As our brains became more complex, you know, we developed this capacity for abstract thought, symbolism, creativity.
Right.
Those things might not have had, like, an immediate survival benefit, but they probably played a role in social cohesion, communication, passing down knowledge.
So like a cave painting. It might not help you hunt a mammoth, but it might help strengthen the bonds within your group.
Exactly. And stronger bonds mean better cooperation, and that ultimately can increase your chances of survival.
It all ties back.
It does. And those things, the art, the music, the stories, that's really what makes us human.
That's her humanity.
Exactly. It's an expression of our creativity, our imagination, our need to connect, to understand.
It is in our DNA.
It is.
It's fascinating. It's really incredible to think about all of this, you know, all these adaptations from our bodies to our brains, how it's all shaped human history.
It's quite a story.
It really is. But as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into the evolutionary journey, I'm wondering, like, what does it all mean for us now? You know, today? How does knowing about, like, where we came from help us with where we're going?
That's a great question. It's not just about looking back, right?
Right.
It's about using what we've learned and applying it to our lives now. For instance, you know, we've talked a lot about cooperation, how crucial it was for our ancestors. They relied on each other to survive.
Yeah, strength in numbers and all that.
Exactly. And that, I think that legacy of cooperation, it's still a part of us.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like we're like hardwired to connect with each other, to collaborate.
We are. But then you look around and, you know, there's so much conflict, so much division in the world today. It's like, how do you square those two things?
Right, exactly.
Well, I think it's important to remember that, we have the capacity for both.
Okay.
For cooperation and for competition.
Right.
And competition can be a good thing sometimes.
Yeah, it can drive innovation.
Exactly. It pushes us to do better, to be better.
Yeah.
But it can also lead to, conflict.
Especially when resources are scarce or people feel threatened.
Right, exactly. So it's like we're always walking this tightrope.
Yeah, trying to find that balance.
Exactly. Between, our instinct to cooperate and that drive to compete.
So how do we find that balance then?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? The one we're all trying to answer. But I think understanding our evolutionary past can give us some clues. For example, just recognizing our shared ancestry. Remembering that we all came from the same place, it can really foster empathy, help us connect with each other.
It's like we look back and we see these early humans just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And we realize, we're not that different.
Not at all. We have the same basic needs, the same fears, the same hopes for the future. And when we focus on those shared values, it can help us, overcome those divides, build stronger communities.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we've also talked about how adaptable Homo sapiens are.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, throughout history, we've faced so many challenges.
So many.
And we've always found a way to make it work.
We're survivors.
We are. I mean, look, migrating out of Africa, surviving ice ages, figuring out agriculture.
We've been through a lot. And that adaptability, it's more important now than ever.
I agree.
I mean, we're facing some unprecedented challenges. Climate change, social inequality, technology that's changing faster than we can keep up with.
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, it can. But, if we can tap into that same ingenuity and resilience, that allowed our ancestors to thrive.
Yeah.
I think we can find solutions. I really do.
It's like our past is this source of, I don't know, inspiration maybe.
Inspiration, absolutely. And guidance.
Right. Exactly. It shows us what we're capable of achieving.
And it reminds us that we have the tools to create a better future.
Well said. I have to say, this deep dive has been really eye-opening for me. It's given me this whole new perspective on what it means to be human.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. And remember, this is just the beginning, right? Chapter 1, it's just the foundation. There's so much more to explore about our evolutionary journey and what it all means for us.
You're right. I'm already feeling inspired to learn more, to dig deeper.
That's the spirit.
I want to look into those specific adaptations and how they've shaped history, culture, even our own lives.
That's what it's all about. Knowledge. It sparks our curiosity. It opens up new possibilities. It empowers us to make a difference.
This has been a wild ride.
It has.
Thanks for taking this journey with us. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those hearts open.